Shalom Israel. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Yahweh is who the world ignorantly calls God. Yahushai is his son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. And there's no God beside them. Double honors to the elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone for being faithful witnesses to the Holy Spirit. And salutations to the elect whom the Lord have given ears to hear. Again, I want to say thank you off the water to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai for blessing me with another day to do this work. All right, to have the mind to do this work. And I wanted to get into a few things concerning digital IDs and how I can see that it's a prelude to the Motb. Because you must understand that with the Motb, which is written of in Revelation 13, that at its very core, all right, it has to do with, we can go into it. All right, this is Revelation 13, right? And I'll start at verse 15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. This he is talking about Esau, Edom, all right, who rule today. Essentially the top Edomites, the elites, who rule today under the power of Rome. That the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. All right, the image of the beast is a system. Pretty much they're making it to where everything is digital. All right, and if you don't go by way of what the system is pushing in a digital way, for the most part, you're going to be cut off from society and eventually actually killed, like it tells us in Revelation 20 and 4. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive. All right. So that word cause, meaning to make. All right. To be the authors of, to make ready, prepare. All right. All, meaning all men, no matter what status of life you're in, to receive, to give someone, to give something to someone, right? To bestow a gift. All right. So it says a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Now that word mark goes into the word charagma, as we always go into. All right. But the origin of charagma goes into karak. All right. So the charagma is the actual chips. The karaks is actually pretty much the instrument that's used, all right, to put the chip in you. And then when you go into the origin of karaks, it takes us to grapho. Now, how the system is being pushed is that they have to find a way to first get your identity, which we know, like say for example, when you go for, when you go to deal with anything of the judicial system or anything concerning the courts of, or just like, let's say if you go for a driver's license, they have something called 6 points of ID. Now your 6 points of ID normally represents or normally constitutes that which represents you. Your birth certificate, your social security card, all right, a license or ID of some sort, a physical license or physical ID of some sort. Now, inside this mark or inside this chip, all those things will be inside of it. Well, as you look at the word grapho, it says to write. All right, it says letters on a tablet, a parchment, paper, or other material to write. To express in written characters, to commit in writing, write down, record. All right. And essentially everything we do in this day and age, especially prior to digital identity, everything is recorded. All right. Normally you have to, when you go for a job, you gotta give them your social security number. All right. To where everything is recorded of all things that you do. So essentially when things go digital, that's the first step. of all your documents, all right, being put digitally, Salaki. All right, to where now you don't have to, like, let's say you got to renew your license, or you just first getting a license. You don't have to show all these points of identification. You just got to show your chip. All right, or at this point your digital ID. This is a digital ID, right? Which actually I seen some the other day, which was going into how, what they say about 2025, they want you to have something called a real ID, which is pretty much takes place of your passport. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that they was also saying that this real ID must be shown in order to travel nationally, not even internationally. All right. It could have been both, actually, Salakia. But it says when you go into digital ID, right? It says a digital ID. Salakia, real quick. I just want to fact check myself. All right, so just to clarify that point, as Salakia about that, I might have brought upon some confusion, but nevertheless, here it reads, for years, travelers in the U.S. have been warned that at some point they will need to obtain a real ID compliant identification if they want to fly in the U.S. It appears that the deadline may be upon us again. The Department of Homeland Security recently stated that real ID will be enforced starting on May 7, 2025, meaning Americans have just under a year to make sure that IDs are compliant, at least if they intend to use air travel or access federal buildings. Real ID was introduced under a 2005 congressional act intending to set a minimum security standard for Americans. It says minimum security standard for citizens, IDs including driver's license. The DHS originally set 2020 as a deadline before it was pushed back a year, and then another 2 years as the CV pandemic grounded most Americans. The official reason given for the delays was backlog transactions. Following the enforcement deadline, federal agencies, including the Transport or the TSA, will be prohibited from accepting driver's licenses and identification cards that do not meet these federal standards. Now, what's in because I didn't plan on going into this, but again, it's all going into the changing of identification. Or in other words, grapho, the writings or your paperwork being put into one place. So let's look at what Alright, so it says the requirements. We just read the previous part, so I'm not going to read that. I'm going to start down here. The requirements include verification of the personal information presented when applying for the identification document, right? Because the real ID is pretty much a driver's license or an ID. It says includes verification of the personal information presented when applying for identification document. Security features on the document and electronic sharing of database between states. It says the act also made various modifications to U.S. immigration law regarding asylum, border security, deportation. Right? And it's heavy, with all this, migrants moving here and moving there, that this is a point, that they want to push the real IDs. This devil has everything set up to fit his agenda, which really is the Lord's agenda. All right, but as you read, a digital ID is an electronic equivalent of a physical identity document, such as a driver's license or passport. You see, so that real ID or some other sort of digital ID that's being pushed worldwide, all right, is all in cahoots with that word grapho, or the very beginning of the Motb, right, so to speak. It says they are used to authenticate and authorize individuals in digital transactions, ensuring secure access to services and information. All right, we pretty much just read that about the real ID. Digital IDs enhance security by reducing the risk of identity theft and fraud through advanced encryption and biometric verification methods. Digital ID wallets provide a secure space to store your digital ID. These wallets empower you with great control over your information, allowing you to choose what information is shared with different entities through selective disclosure. And mind you, when speaking on what he wants to push, it's always buzzwords. All right, reducing the risk, empower. All right, it's all psychologically easing you in, all right, to this trap. All right, so there was another one I wanted to harp on. This another article. Right, this article. It says OIX, digital ID, is in a critical phase globally. Now I guess I'll read a little bit of the beginning, but I really wanted to touch on a framework for trust. Now, since countries and regimes have been pushing plans, policies, and legislation on digital ID and setting up standards for interoperability. All right, which pretty much, as we're going into the real ID, the standard or interoperability is pretty much, how Salakia. I think I got it up here. Pretty much what it is it allows these different technological platforms that you may use, or different countries that you may go to be able to forgot the word, Salakia. But pretty much interoperability is a way for two technological. Let me just look it up. Salakia. Salakia, man. Lost for words today, as you see. What is digital ID? All right, digital ID interoperability. What is it? In the tapestry of today's digital ecosystem, the concept of an interoperable digital identity stands out as a cornerstone, pivotal for the seamless interaction. That's the word I was looking for, interaction, across various platforms and services. Imagine a world where your digital persona, with all its complexities and nuances, can traverse the internet without the barriers of incompatible systems or the constraints of siloed data. This is the promise of interoperability in digital ID systems, a promise that Did It not only understands but brings to life. All right. But the point being, all right, is that it's a seamless interaction across various platforms and services. That's what interoperability means. Right, so here we were. It says and legislations on digital ID and setting up standards for interoperability. Oaks, or IX, however you say it, sees this task as ensuring digital identity is a common language across the world. So you see, there's many companies that's working towards interoperability, because all facets of your life will be put on a digital platform. All right. There's no coincidence that nowadays, when you have some type of bill, a discount is offered to you if you allow them to, take it out of your account. All right, because the goal was to have everything go digital, and then be able to chip you. Which on the other end of the spectrum, that's being pushed on the healthcare scheme. You got the Elon Musk, which he's on his so-called. They said that he's on his second patient as we speak. Hell, probably on the third. Who knows? It says X sees its task as ensuring digital identity is a common language across the world, and has recently made attempts to draw in the United Kingdom toward this goal. To work towards this goal. At the end of July, the non-profit organization sent a letter to the UK government urging it to clarify how ID will work across the public and private sectors and take leaderships on cross-border identity interoperability. The UK should coordinate with international work on using digital wallets across borders and supports open approaches and standards which could boost international trade, said the letter addressed to Secretary of State Peter Cobb. The UK is a piece in the jigsaw, and its fairly unique piece, says Naren Singh. The UK's uniqueness comes from its particular relationship with national ID schemes. Unlike its continental neighbors, the UK public has been generally opposed to the concept, citing fears of government overreach and surveillance. This has made the job of creating digital ID ecosystem much harder, he points out. Now it says the framework for trust. The digital identity sector will have to work on explaining digital IDs to both commercial and institutional service providers and to the public, which has been conflating the initiative with a compulsory national ID program. In the letter, Oaks recommends that the UK Digital Identity and Attributes Trust Framework clarifies that digital IDs are not the same as national ID or a database ID. The organization, however, is also aware that without a national ID that can be digitized, the path toward realizing digital identity will be more complicated. We have to go about it in a slightly longer way, and that in itself requires building trust. All right. And as I was reading this, because you watch my page, you see I try to go into this. I have been going into digital IDs often, and normally what we see in the articles that we read is the framework for trust, something about building trust. And if you look at it, as we always go into through the spirit, it's going to be by your own premonition that you take this Motb. All right? That's why the Lord has no use for you if you take it, because you trust in the devil more than you trust in the Lord. That's ultimately what it is. Okay? For example, in a 2020 situation, this devil told you that you were sick, that you felt sick. So then you went to go take, the seed, you went to go take the, the Jamba juice, and you got messed up. Right? And it's always a situation where your trust in him was your shame. As it tells us in Isaiah 31, trust in Egypt shall be your shame. All right? And through the spirit, this place is spiritually Sodom and Gomorrah. I mean Sodom and Egypt. Salakia. Well, Sodom and Gomorrah and Egypt, really. Okay. I can see this being the thought frame or the framework of Jake when shit really gets hard. This is what's that? First Maccabees. Grab that. It says First Maccabees 1 verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, "Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen." All right, because what this devil's trying to push is nothing new. To where he's trying to get an international effort. All right, for everyone to come together and, as the word they use, interoperably connect digitally. All right. Whereas back then it wasn't digital, but it was still the point of connecting or being as one people. All right, the Lord destroyed it during the Tower of Babel. The Lord destroyed it during various other attempts, like we see in the book of Maccabees, which is during the Greeks, or in the book of the Assyrians, which is during the book of Judah, which is during the Assyrians. And he's going to do it today. The Lord said what? He changeth not. And he sees Israel as separate and the heathen as nothing. And that's what the way it's going to be. Continue to be. Verse 10, it says, verse 11, in those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, "Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow." So this device, or this plan, or this plot pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward herein, for they went to the king and gave them license to do, after the ordinance of the heathen. Right? Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the custom of the heathen. But the point is, there will be some that consent, as we always go into, and they shall be had in derision. And if you consent into something, it's because you trust it. All right? You can make all excuses in the world, but the Lord will see it as such. And the scriptures say that they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and trodden, and a reproach and trodden underfoot. So it says, which has been completing the initiative with compulsory national ID. Let's see the organization. However, it's also aware that without a national ID, we read that, right, requires building trust. That was the point I wanted to get on that. Let me see. Right, more articles. Says biometrics adoption around the world spurred by need for digital trust. Okay. And I can't remember if I mentioned it earlier, but when you look around the world, all right, there is an influx of migrants here, migrants there, undocumented, all right, doing safety-sensitive jobs, all right, creating a chaos, and the people are going to call for change. So this says biometrics are being used to establish digital trust in many of the most read articles of the week on biometric update. From ID documents to digital public infrastructure, Thales and making Sri Lanka's new biometric passport. Software providers like Wise AI and Liquid are tackling APAC's fraud flood. And India has announced digital ID milestones. On the other side of the same coin, Microsoft has warnings about the threat of AI-generated content and suggestions for how to mitigate it. Now it shows you, different countries: Romania, Uganda. All right, digital ID system in some way, shape, or form. Romania is adding fingerprint and facial biometrics collection to its immigration process. You see? Vietnam's Project 06 digital transformation plan to progress with digital identity as its carrier. Okay, it says what was I? The Asia Pacific region is grappling with the twin challenges of high and rising fraud rates and consumer expectation for fast and smooth onboarding. India has reached 1.38 billion people registered for Aadhaar, according to the new figures released by the government. The unified payment interface has been used in more than 13.88 billion financial transactions, and DigiLocker is up to 300 million users. It says Arizona, let's see, a report from the WEF suggests that digital public infrastructure could play a major role in increasing gender parity in economic participation and access to healthcare and education. That's pretty much it. I think I want to stop it there. Let me see. Mobile drivers accepted as a proof of age is making its IDEMIA supply. Oh yeah, brothers went into this. Digital IDs or smart ID through iPhones. Similarly, Ohio has made its MDL, a driver's license, available in Apple Wallet. All right, so it's surely going in the way of the grapple. All right, everything is going digital. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Like I said, when you couple that with the Neuralink situation, which neural meaning what? Brain link. All right, the scriptures say what? That he might receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom, let him that have understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666, or shy, psi, stigma. Where you see stigma, it's a brand, a mark with a tattoo. And we always go into like a tattoo is pretty much like ink being sold in your skin. See, psi,